What if Antarctica isn't an empty white desert? What if a whole landscape is hidden under the ice? What if some of it has been sealed off for millions of years? When you picture Antarctica, you probably see a flat white nothing, an endless sheet of ice at the bottom of the world, where nothing lives and nothing happens. For almost all of human history, that is exactly what everyone assumed was down there. Empty, frozen, dead. But that white surface is not the continent. It is a lid, a roof of ice sitting on top of something. And in the last few decades, by learning to look straight through the ice, we have started to see what that something is. Mountains taller than the Alps, a canyon deeper than any other on land, more than 400 lakes that have never seen sunlight, and buried underneath all of it, the memory of a green world. This is the hidden continent beneath the ice. To understand what is hidden, you first have to understand the thing that hides it, and the scale of the ice is almost impossible to hold in your head. Antarctica holds roughly 90% of all the ice on Earth, and with it, about 70% of all the fresh water on the planet. If every bit of it melted, the world's oceans would rise by around 60 meters. In the deepest places, the ice is nearly 5 kilometers thick. That is deep enough to swallow a mountain whole, to bury an entire alpine range, and still leave the surface above looking perfectly flat and featureless. For most of history, no one had any real idea what the ice was resting on. The map of the true continent, the rock and the shape of the land was a complete and total blank. And even the surface itself isn't quite what the postcards promise. In the McMurdo dry valleys, almost no snow falls at all. They are bare rock and frozen ground, so cold and so dry that scientists treat them as the closest thing on Earth to the surface of Mars. And at the foot of one glacier, a blood-red waterfall pours out of the ice. It isn't blood. It is iron-rich water from a salty lake sealed beneath the glacier, leaking to the surface and rusting the instant it meets the air. A glimpse of the hidden water below, bleeding through. But to see the real hidden world, we needed to look through kilometers of solid ice. The technology that finally turned the lights on was ice-penetrating radar. Aircraft flew slow, endless grids across the continent, firing radar pulses straight down. The pulses passed through the ice, bounced off the rock far below, and came back up. By timing those echoes and adding gravity and magnetic readings, scientists rebuilt the land beneath. Refined over years into detailed maps of the bedrock, the picture that emerged was astonishing. Antarctica's hidden surface is not flat at all. It is one of the most dramatic landscapes anywhere on the planet. Near the very centre of the continent, the radar found a mountain range that no human eye has ever seen directly. The Gamburtsev Mountains stretch for around 1,200 kilometres and rise to heights comparable to the European Alps. Sharp peaks, deep valleys, a complete alpine range sitting in the dark. And every bit of it is entombed under kilometres of ice. We know its jagged shape only from the echoes of radar. No one has ever stood on those summits, and no one ever will without drilling down to reach them. And that shape is the real puzzle. Sharp, jagged mountains are usually young, freshly carved, but the Gamburtsevs may be extraordinarily old. How they kept their alpine edges, frozen and protected under the ice, instead of being ground flat over millions of years, is still argued over today. The hidden land does not only rise into mountains, in other places it plunges far below sea level. Beneath the Denman Glacier, the rock floor drops to about 3.5 kilometres below sea level. That is the deepest point on dry land anywhere on Earth, outside the ocean trenches. It is a colossal canyon, and it is completely filled and hidden by a slow river of ice, grinding its way through it toward the distant sea. But the most haunting detail is not the depth, it is the shape. The maps show valleys, basins and winding channels, the unmistakable fingerprints of rivers and flowing water from a time long before any ice existed here at all. Which brings us to the part that sounds impossible. At the bottom of the coldest place on Earth, there is liquid water, and a great deal of it. Scientists have now mapped more than 400 lakes beneath the ice. They stay liquid because of two things working together: the faint heat rising from the planet's interior and the crushing pressure of the ice pressing down from above. And many of them are not isolated. They are linked by rivers running under the ice, quietly filling and draining over years and decades. An entire hidden plumbing system, moving water across a continent in total darkness. When one of these buried lakes drains, it can lift and speed up the ice above it, which means the water you cannot see is quietly steering the glaciers that you can. And one of these lakes stands completely apart from all the others. Lake Vostok is roughly the size of a large surface lake, but it lies under nearly 4 kilometers of ice, close to the coldest temperature ever recorded anywhere on the planet. It has been sealed off from the outside world for millions of years. No sunlight, no air, no contact with anything we would recognize as the surface of the Earth. When researchers finally drilled down toward it, they found signatures of microbial life, organisms that may have been evolving alone, in absolute darkness, for longer than human beings have existed, a separate experiment in life, running quietly under the ice while the world above forgot it was there. And here is the fact that reframes the entire continent. Antarctica was not always frozen. Tens of millions of years ago it sat in a far warmer world, covered in forests, swamps and rivers. Sediment cores drilled near the coast have even pulled up the preserved roots of an ancient rainforest that once grew close to the South Pole. So those buried valleys and river channels under the ice are not random. They are the ruins of that lost green world. The ice never built this landscape. It found one that was already here and froze it in place. So strip it all back to what we actually know. Under the emptiest looking place on Earth lies an alpine mountain range, the deepest canyon on any continent, more than 400 sealed lakes, life that has been hidden for millions of years, and the fossil memory of a forest near the pole. We called it a frozen desert because the ice was all we could see. The real continent was always underneath. Which leaves one quiet question. How many other empty places are just lids over something we simply haven't looked under yet?